Breaking news. The tape never lies. Network breaking news.
Bet you didn't expect to see us today, ladies and gentlemen.
I didn't expect to be seeing us today.
This guy had to wake up somebody else.
I was about to take a nap. Get ready for Notre Dame.
News: Chicago Bears have named Ben Johnson, former offensive coordinator from the Detroit Lions, as the next head football coach. Adam Schefter reporting Ben Johnson is already busy at work, accumulating a star-studded, his words, coaching staff.
Amazing that, right out the gate, obviously a lot of rumors and agendas and just checking in, making sure Trace Armstrong is not his agent.
But just news just piling in. Leading contender to be the Bears' next defensive coordinator, former New Orleans Saints head coach Dennis Allen.
Dennis
leading
Allen.
Candidate. That's from Adam
Leading
Schefter.
candidate, but he's not yet.
Yeah, well, they can't say he's finalized because he's got to finalize his deal. But Phil, this
is big.
Well, it's big, and it's, for everybody that was out there, and I know you kind of fell into that trap last night, and some of our patrons when we were talking to them of, I want somebody that wants to be here. Well, guess what? Vegas, have fun. Have fun. Bye now. Bye now. Enjoy Tom Brady and his 10%. That was
right.
That was a joke.
Clearly, he wanted. Yeah, he wanted to be here. That's what this says.
We reported that over
and
over ad nauseum. This is a business, folks. It's the way that it works. You don't go to the AFC West because I talked to Adam Abdallah on Twitter yesterday. He's like, oh, no, he's a competitor. That's what you can be a competitor. It doesn't mean that you want to commit career suicide by going to the AFC West and the AFC with no quarterback, by the way. Now he's in Chicago. Now it's time to get to fucking work. Now you start building that offensive line. Ryan Poles, you got a lot of work to do, buddy. Radar lock firmly entrenched on your forehead.
And listen, as Shane knows, we did a lot of legwork behind the scenes talking to people that truly matter, because famously Shane talking about, we don't know who Ben Johnson is, the man. We don't know who they are. You're muted. So
just put it out. Put it out. He's not going to care. Go ahead and share it, Phil. People need to hear it. I don't think it's.
Well,
something's over. Go ahead.
I approached a couple players that played for both the Bears and the Lions that have experienced what it is, none bigger than the guy I identified at the identity. We'll say that. And I just put it, in a nice conversation, backs against the wall. You've been in this game. I've been around it my whole life. You have experienced the Bears, Nagy, and Eberflus. Who is Ben Johnson, and can he be a head coach? And his response was euphorically, in the sense that he is going to be crushed to lose them, but he is going to change the Chicago Bears. That's it. Home run guy. A coach beyond a coach. He will change the Bears. That's all I needed to hear from that dude. That's all I needed to hear from that dude. And it went on with other players saying the same thing. I don't know who Ben is in front of the room, so I was never going to pretend I did. I just recognize how he blocks fronts, how they use fundamentals. Oh, by the way, goodbye, Chris Morgan. Please.
Yeah, let's.
And you get out there and you get a guy that understands the importance of running the football to set up everything else. I'm a big fan of running trick plays to put defenses in stressful thoughts throughout the week, that you have to be prepared for anything. And that's really what he's going to do. And listen, we share it with you here at TTNL. The number one thing, it's not close. I was watching Greg Bragg's show today. I had to turn it off when Carm starts praising Dan Orlovsky. It's the second time I've watched their show. I just had to stop it. I just can't deal with the drama and the manipulation. And then Adam's talking about, the coach is important. No, it's not. It's the most important. Then the quarterback. It ain't the GM. It's the head coach setting the motherfucking tone. And, Detroit lost, and my rankings never moved based on how they performed. And nor should it. The Chicago Bears identified their guy. I was not expecting this to happen this fast, where he's out there and he's putting together his staff. He's getting a jump on that. And it goes to show me that all the other shit with Vegas, it's something that gets me upset, because I'm one of those guys too. You don't want to be here. Let's go to the next guy. Let's get the next guy. I want a coach that wants to be here. And the fact that it happened, to Shane's credit, Monday, the next day.
Well,
that shows
I
that
think
he
the
wants
mic
to
drop
be here.
in all of this, and I don't mean any disrespect whatsoever to Eddie George, and I'm actually quite intrigued by Eddie George. I don't think he ever had a legitimate shot, but again, it's his name out there. I would not be shocked if he is on the staff in some capacity in Chicago. But as soon as you saw that be announced by somebody like Jay Glazer, who has a direct connection with Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham, to put that out there, that means you went from a slow crawl to rolling down fucking hill. That's why I made the comment to our patrons last night. This should be wrapped up by Wednesday. And here we are, not even 24 hours later.
You always stayed the course. You believed in Ben Johnson, but we also uttered the truths that we didn't know. Well, Brock Wright also verified who Ben Johnson is, the man, the leader. And you know what? And I think you said this as well, and it was to help me, because you surround yourself with good people that you trust. If you're a good and well-coached football team, like, there's one thing I know, is football and coaching. I just didn't know Ben Johnson, the man. I've seen the shoe salesmans come in here, the Mark Trestmans, the Eberfluses, the Matt Nagy's of the world. And they know somebody who knows somebody, and somebody else said this. And when you looked at the tape, Matt Nagy called 2 games that were not even games. They were like already in the playoff. Like, there's no, and then the one game he supposedly called but didn't call was the one they lost. It was like, okay, this is not good. And I saw it right away. When you watch the Lions, and you can't have recency bias. It's like all of those people crowning Jaden Daniels right now.
Real quick, Phil, this in from Albert Breer, and this is nothing new, but the Bears job intrigued Ben Johnson at the end of the 2023 season. He was hoping that it would come open, but it did not, as we know. This year it did, and after a lot of research and meetings, Ben Johnson has accepted the job, according to sources. And I know there were some people talking about DC's, the leading contender to be the defensive coordinator for Ben Johnson in Chicago. His former Saints head coach, Dennis Allen, is the name that's out there that's coming directly from Adam Schefter. But I think what is critical and what Adam Schefter did say is Ben Johnson is busy at work didn't say assembling a staff. He said assembling an all-star staff. So
Listen, Dennis Allen.
and this is what needs to be fucking said, Phil,
Go ahead.
because there's a lot of correlations between the shit that was out there about the Chicago Bears and Ben Johnson, and I look at the same correlation about the bullshit that was out there about Caleb Williams pre-draft and all of that shit. The shit with Caleb never cropped up and was true. Just like, oh, Ben believes in Brady. You know, no, he did not. He didn't. He could end up in Jacksonville. Newmark is going to be, he's going to be named GM in Vegas, in Jacksonville, in New York, whatever. None of that shit played out. Guess why Ben Johnson's here? Because of Caleb
Williams. 100%.
End of story. And if you don't fucking like it, then go cheer for another team. I particularly don't give a fuck. Jaden Daniels, bravo. Ain't my quarterback. Go beat Philly. Good luck to you. It's fine. Hope you win. Doesn't bother me in the least. Have I wavered on Caleb Williams? None. Not at all. Who believes
Not
in him?
one iota.
Ben Johnson does. Ben Johnson does.
Well, Shane, just stay there because that's where I was going with this, because I think it's hilarious that the Nightcrawlers come out on the precipice of the Washington Commanders football team, pick sixes, turnovers, defensive efforts. And listen, Jaden Daniels is exactly what I said he was, a good quarterback that should be a first-round pick. He went to the right place for him with great coaching and a team-first philosophy with an identity of what they were going to do building around him. The Chicago Bears did the utter opposite. Ryan Poles is on thin ice because of it. But what Caleb was able to do on tape and put it on there, despite the Dan Orlovskis and all of the other front frauds, all of them, Lawrence Holm, all these guys that flip-flop more than the fucking Daytona Beach. What Caleb was able to do in sheer negligence and chaos, I call it, should count for a lot. And that's why a coach in this high regard wants to be here because of number 18. My son Tate's 10 years old. He's a quarterback. He went to bed last night saying his prayers, hoping it was Ben Johnson. That's what he did. So I just yelled up to him when Shane woke me up on the couch. You ready to go live? I go, what? We got our coach. I go, who? He's like, Ben Johnson. I go, let's go. I went into depths, Shane, for our patrons. And if you're not a patron, I don't know what to tell you. The tapeneverlies.com. We've proven time and time again to not only hold ourselves accountable, but hold every media member, TV show, analyst, draft phony and fraud, everybody accountable. And you notice how I said, including us, because that's what we do here. We don't talk out of both sides of our face. I broke down the 16 coaches that I thought could handle the Chicago Bears redo. Not rebuild, redo. That they had the temperament, the attitude that was necessary, the personality, whether they were offensively and defensively minded. And that's where we are. Shane has spoken time and time again on how this process would go. And we show you the tape. Now we will go into depth on Ben Johnson's tape, as well as if Dennis Allen and his aggressive matchup man zone defensive philosophy and what he does to show you what schemes and what personnel are going to be able to fit those schemes. They're going to make it a priority.
Phil, real quick, just pause right there. This is
Every
important. In from Jordan Schultz, at Schultz_report. It is my understanding, and as I mentioned last week, there was never a point when the Raiders were the front runners for Ben Johnson, per sources. They had an interview that went really well, but Chicago was clearly the early favorite in this entire process, and they finalized it today.
Went right out the gate with the coach. I'm getting fucking flight details before I put my head down. I'm like, oh my God, this is getting crazy. I got to take a nap.
That was
And then
probably
they're popping up.
that could have been them bringing his family here because he was clearly here yesterday.
Right. So maybe it is his family's coming here. He took the dive to be a head coach. And listen, I am a big believer. You need to want the job. This shows me he did. You feel me? Now all the Mina Kimes and all these people that have an agenda, they want a sound bite. They want to ask, Mr. Kyle Brandt will flip flop back and forth. Maybe he'll be wearing his Bears jersey next weekend because Ben Johnson's here and he'll be back on the fucking boat.
I was watching the live feed of DWC prods, because he had a guy, Jay Nick was at the executive airport seeing if that was Ben Johnson. So he's been staked out there for the past hour plus, and they're detailing every move, and then the news breaks live on air that the Bears just hired Ben Johnson. Good stuff.
Well, the Bears hired him. I'm super excited. Top 10 guy for me that they get hired for this turnaround. That's my 4:00 alarm, Shane. It's 4:00 on the East Coast. But we have a new head coach, one that I could say is going to have a plan that checks the boxes that Eberflus, Nagy never did for me. And that's where we are live tonight, where now all the haters, the national media included, who wanted to paint these jobs when Shane kept, and shout out to you because you've been saying it since December, like putting it into perspective, and then other people reiterating. And it's not like you invented the wheel here, but you did do the legwork in looking at the whole scheme. Like, how do the Jags measure up? How do the Vegas Raiders measure up? Like, let's put this into perspective. Johnson was the guy everybody wanted, and the Bears went out, got the guy that wanted them because of number 18. The guy who did it in chaos. Imagine what you can do. Well, you don't have to imagine. You just look to Washington and see what he's doing, because my draft board never would change. Caleb Williams all day, every day over Jaden Daniels and all of these guys. Now he's going to have a semblance of somebody that's going to build the line. And there's got to be some verbiage in that contract that you're going to be doing what I want done on this offensive line, because let's just be honest, no team with a good offensive line loses. So you got to start thinking they're going to build into that and get that done. Defensive line, offensive line. Let's look at it. Just be honest. Under Eberflus with Ryan Poles, they've built outside in.
Dan Orlovsky just went live on air, and the words that came out of his mouth were, Ben Johnson has to get Caleb Williams better at avoiding sacks. He led the fucking league by almost double, Dan. Do your work, moron. 50 is the number. 50. The next closest guy, 27. The fuck out of here, Dan Orlovsky.
Dan Orlovsky was a quarterback here in Connecticut. My father and I coached against him. We beat his ass. They should have beat us by 35. We beat his ass. I just put that out there because I know he hates that. But in the reality, he is so moronic. I think we have that drop that Jack produced, but he's so moronic. That just goes to show you, I want to be more clear of what Shane is saying. When we assess tape here, we don't do it the likes of some fanboy, like throw a name, Chris Foster or EJ or some of these guys that are just taking PFF stats. We do it on our own. then to match it up with others that put out numbers. So Caleb Williams avoided 50 sacks that should have been him being sacked. The next closest was 27, and I believe it was Kyler Murray, or was it Lamar Jackson?
I can look it up.
The reality is he led the league in avoiding sacks. His stopwatch time with these nerds, these analytical nerds that don't watch tape based on the amount of his release, do you assess the number that he's actually running for his life to find a platform to throw the ball down the field? No, they're not. They're just carrying the number.
Real quick, Phil, in from Diana Rossini. Lou Anarumo and Dennis Allen have both been discussing opportunities to join Ben Johnson as the DC in Chicago, depending on where he landed. The selection is expected to be Dennis Allen per source. And it looks like Anarumo is
so Anarumo's number one.
No, Anarumo and both of them were talking to Ben Johnson with wherever he ended up.
Right.
But it's expected to be Dennis Allen, and Anarumo is heading elsewhere.
Oh, okay.
And we do have
to finish my point here before we bring him on. It needs to be put into perspective how poorly coached the Chicago Bears have been under Matt Eberflus, and how poorly coached the offensive line and the offense in itself has been under Eberflus. Caleb Williams, to Shane's stats there, that Dan Orlovsky just fails to recognize. And it's so disappointing because, as a former quarterback, the protection, the play call, and everything that is identified in offensive success has been in disarray and negligent at best in Chicago. So to be able to put up the numbers and to be able to be productive in a way that he's breaking NFL records, franchise records, and without doing the most dreaded thing, and we talked about this yesterday on our patron pop-up show, there's analysts out there wanting him to throw more turnovers. Guess what happens? Look at the playoffs. What wins games? Turnovers. Quarterbacks that throw turnovers lose. So Dan Orlovsky and his shitty takes need to be destroyed. He should be honestly terminated from ESPN for some of the bullshit that he spews out of his mouth as some sort of reflection of truth. What Caleb did in chaos to have those low turnover values should be applauded by every football person in football. And that's why Ben Johnson's here, because of Caleb. It ain't because of George. It ain't because of the Bears' strong tradition. And he will thank the McCaskies.
Who's that guy?
Guy who's high on paint fumes right now, I can tell you that much. What's going on, gents?
Cars can come out of the bunker. Mike McCarthy not coming to Chicago. Cars.
Thank God. Thank God I can continue to watch this team and not take a year off, for sure.
Well, you got Ben Johnson. I know you were Ben or Brady, right?
That's correct. But yeah, once Vrabel left, it was really down to those two for me. And so this is a tremendous get. Like it's hard to, and when you pair it with Dennis Allen, it just doubles. So because that defense is going to be in good hands. What out of the last 9, not including this last year, like the 9 years that he's been defensive coordinator at New Orleans, they've been a top 15 defense 7 of those. So I think it's a significant win all the way around. Obviously, it starts with Ben, but if Dennis is part of the staff that he's building, that's a massive win. Massive
A huge win, because that's going to be the thing that accompanies him. Who's his defensive coordinator? You weren't here, but I talked to David Montgomery, who is probably the best person to talk to in regards to knowing what Matt Nagy was and Matt Eberflus was, and knowing the cobwebs in Hallis, and being a part of something different in Detroit. I asked him, the biggest concern, I look at the tape, I know what you're doing offensively. Is it the talent? Can this guy stand in front of the room, command the locker room? His response, it'll be game-changing for Chicago. He will change everything. I hate to see him go, but it's going to be a whole hell of a lot different there. That you can't get higher praise from anybody, in my opinion, because he's experienced both. You know what I'm saying? And this is where we are. And I know Shane has been pounding the table. You have. He's in my coaching tree. I just want to know, could he do that? And does he want this job? I think we found out both of those answers.
Less than 24 hours after the loss that this is complete. Shout out, by the way, to the Raiders fans who overreacted to news, much like Carolina Panthers fans did about Bryce Young when that trade happened and how they won that trade. So Raiders fans are definitely eating a little bit of crow. But I think it's Phil, the way I look at it is you hired a defensive coordinator who has head coach experience. So you can, as much as you want, kind of hand that off to someone who can run that part of the field and trust in them while you try to build and save this offense that still looks like it's mired in 1960s football a lot of the time. So this is probably the first top coordinator we've gotten since Dave Wanstead. Obviously, Dave didn't work out, but there are a lot of reasons for that. But this is really the first time that we've gone out and got kind of the biggest, brightest name. And it's the first time from an offensive standpoint that we've gotten the biggest, brightest name.
100%.
I think it's key. I think it's like you said before, Phil, and we can't overlook this. You brought a big time offensive mind in that has a track record of success. And oh yeah, by the way, it's in your division. Think about just that right there.
Oh,
the game planning. He's already on page 464 in the first time head coach book. He's not coming to a new division. He knows the landscape immediately. He knows the warts of Jordan Love. He knows the warts of Sam Darnold, not JJ McCarthy. Obviously, guess what? He knows the warts of Caleb Williams. I saw you do this, and this is not acceptable. So we are going to focus in on this and change it. It's huge. That is nobody's talking about just that, but he's going to go to the AFC. Get the fuck out of here. Never.
He's going to the Chicago Bears. He's completely organized. He identifies with the power run game. He understands it to the point where the run sets up the pass. You have to be diligent in that and understand that. What's your identity? What is your identity? When you're a head coach, you're the focus. Everybody reflects on you. The team is a reflection of the head coach. And this guy is a confident, borderline arrogant motherfucker, and that's exactly what the Chicago Bears need. He knows offense, and he wants to surround himself with good people. Dennis Allen coming in here, he is going. I know we have a bunch of super chats. You get your super chats in there. Chubbs 82, $2. Let's fucking go. I'm hyped up. Thank you, Chubbs. David Montgomery knows what's up. Of course, no one better would know, in my opinion, being in both locker rooms. And here's where I wanted to get to. SAP, $1.99. What does Dennis Allen bring as a DC? Cards, you want to talk about Dennis at all?
Dennis has played really aggressive. I mean, Cam Jordan was always a great player, but look at how much better he was under that scheme and what had transpired from there. I mean, you look at Marshawn Lattimore, whose growth as an absolute lockdown corner has been there. What they did with Matthew, right? Tyrone Matthew, and how he played. Like, he plays a very aggressive style. If I remember, they had that streak from like when they were young and healthy. They went 4 years as a top 5, 4 years in a row. I think it was like a top 5, top 8 scoring defense. So you're just talking about someone that tries to get to the quarterback, really plays aggressively, doesn't let you sit back, and does a lot with those corners and really lets those corners play as physical and free as you want. Again, Lattimore has been a blast to watch there. So I think you kind of you don't see necessarily the turnover focus as much as you may have with a Flus type of defense. It doesn't mean it's not as important. They just preach aggression, physicality, all the things that you want to see, and not just this, hey, come get us. We'll stop you once you get inside the 40, right?
A lot of what the Bears need is what you're talking about, and I said it too. Aggressiveness, that matchup zone looked where you're taking away some of those deep ins that have fucking completely destroyed the Chicago Bears third down situations are going to be more aggressive. You're going to be seeing a lot of matchup man with outside concepts of zone looks that are going to result in man coverage. He likes to be aggressive and blitz. And you're going to need another pass rusher. He's going to come in here and identify who should stay and who should go. Dennis Allen is like getting your another head coach here. So that's another benefit for a first-time head coach, to rely on your defensive coordinator who's been relied on to be a head coach twice. So he's not going to be a head coach again. So I think that's the other advantage. And that's a huge advantage, because now he could build his defense. And some coaches are better off being defensive coordinators.
Yeah. Dennis
has work because Dennis is a very good defensive coordinator. And he's a fiery, demonstrative guy who's demanding people do their jobs. What has this defense lacked? All of what I just said. People demanding they do their job. Be in the right place. Your linebacker drop is at 10 to 8 yards. You better be 10 to 8 yards. If you're at 6, you are not going to be playing. That's how demonstrative you have to be. And I think Dennis is going to be invaluable to Ben, because now Ben could do what Ben does best: command the room, understand what his identity is, bring that air of confidence, and set the tone for where you're going to go with the Chicago Bears moving forward. Shane, getting some offense. I mean, you have pieces here now offensively.
Yep.
So Cole Kmet, his responsibility is going to be changed. Obviously, I don't think you're going to be seeing Mercedes.
You're not going to see him omitted from the fucking game plan either, Phil.
Right.
I mean, I understand Cole can have his warts, but he's going to be a part of the game plan. And that is critical. And one thing you're going to want to keep in mind is Ben Johnson and DeAndre Swift. Ben Johnson was on the staff when they traded DeAndre Swift to the Philadelphia Eagles for almost nothing. So keep that in mind as we move forward. You know, finances, the Bears are going to take a hit because of the contract structure. Cars, I don't know if you have access to that real quick about what the money is on Swift if they moved off of him.
It's about 8 million.
Yeah,
but
so
he's a nice piece.
Right.
I think he's going to become the piece he's supposed to be that we talked about, the secondary piece.
But right, and that's fine. That's who he is.
That's exactly.
And everybody, please just fucking stop. And I see big time national people talking about this, and the Bears didn't want Saquon Barkley. Yes, they did.
Yes,
they were involved.
did.
He didn't want Chicago. Not everybody wants to play in Chicago. Some people don't want to coach in Vegas, right? Raiders fans.
But I mean, it's much like Monty, right? Monty had the choice to be here, and he decided to leave. It's no different than with Saquon.
100%, and that's the great thing about free agency. I think Saquon and his agency made the right choice, right? I mean, you're on the precipice of a Super Bowl, and they identify running the football. Why did David leave? They didn't identify with making run first. It's pretty easy math. I think you're going to see a big strategy change in personnel offensively. You're going to see a new offensive line coach here. That's what I'm most excited about, that. And you get someone in here that's going to be holding these guys to a standard beyond what they've ever felt here. And I am the first, like, Ryan Bates could turn around and be a serviceable, strong offensive lineman with the right coaching and accountability. I'm not writing anybody off. Not at all. Because the coaching was so pathetic here. Especially there. We have Big Steve on here, my father, looking at their offensive line answers to blitz. I mean, simple TE stunts aren't even picked up. Shoulders are going to sidelines. Everything you can try to teach is being thrown out the window, Shane. You're muted. That's all.
No, I'm a little under the weather, so bear with me as I'm sniffling and hacking. But Tom Pelissero, to his credit, is the first that broke the news on social media, and he was just live on 670 The Score. So let's bring that up real quick, and I will play it for you.
This is a very exciting moment in Chicago. This is a dream hire for where the Bears are. Would you agree?
There is no doubt. I think that it's a dream hire for a lot of people, from the front office to the McCaskies to Caleb Williams, who now gets one of the foremost offensive minds in the NFL working with them on a daily basis. They knew that they needed to be bold. They knew that they were going to have to
I think
pay.
you saw this on the
they were going to have to maybe operate a little
St.
bit
Brown's
differently than
podcast,
the Bears
too, that they kind of
operated
knew this was
in the
going.
past. This really escalated starting this morning. They entered into contract negotiations. Ben Johnson, based upon having, really three teams, but especially the Raiders and the Bears.
Boy, Grody with the zip up, Shane.
The whole, second interview circuit and bounce around.
Not the TTNL one.
I know. Mark,
and,
you couldn't wear the
Bears
TTNL hoodie?
for stepping up. This was always the job. I've been very consistent about this, saying it for a couple of months now. He was intrigued by the Bears opening. He was willing to listen after the season. My understanding all along has been that's the one that was going to make the most sense for Ben Johnson. The Raiders made a strong push. He could have had that job if he wanted it. The Jaguars were involved as well, but he ends up landing in Chicago, stays in the Midwest, stays in the NFC North Division, and now takes over a Bears team that, quite frankly, it's got to be an extremely exciting day in Hallis Hall and throughout all the Bears fans.
It's an exciting day, I know, for these two guys and myself, because you're getting competence in coaching. Cut that. Because that's what I've identified as the biggest problem with the Chicago Bears for the last 14 years. You can't, or longer, you can't sit there and say, wow, the Bears were really well coached today. I can't think of a time where we could say that as Bears fans since Mike Ditka. maybe a couple games with Lovie Smith. And that's where we are in this era right now when we needed the quarterback. The Bears have the quarterback. It's not even a question to me. I can say this, and I'm doing the work to prove it. I just know not many quarterbacks could survive what the Chicago Bears did to Caleb Williams this year.
Real quick, Phil, Lou Anarumo is the
Yes.
new defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts. So you see
There you go.
things starting to progress around the league.
Dominoes are falling in regards to the coaches. But I think a lot of you recency analysts, we call them, cars. They see what happens on Sunday in the playoffs, and the Bears missed out. They could have had No, the Commanders drafting first, they're taking Caleb Williams. Everybody drafting first, taking Caleb Williams, because it's that much different. What Caleb's did in negligence, football negligence and abuse, should show you right then and there. That's why it's so disappointing to see these talking heads talk shit about this quarterback and pile on for sound bites and views, when no, Caleb led the league in avoiding sacks. Caleb broke an NFL record for rookies without throwing a turnover. Those two things don't match. So when you get this stuff correct, you're going to end up on the victorious side with this kid. And one last thing I want to say about Caleb. His 2-minute performances are undeniable, where he's delivering the ball and making the plays that we have not seen quarterbacks make, putting you in position to win when the chips are down. Do you think this coach is going to tap into that? I will bet my life on it. Go ahead.
So in from Brad Biggs, Ryan Cox just shared this possibility for the special teams coordinator in Chicago is Darren Rizzi. How likely is it? It is unknown as of right now, but Rizzi worked with Ben Johnson in Miami. Also worked a long time with Sean Payton, and the Broncos are also trying to hire him, according to 2 team sources that are that believe he is squarely in the mix in Chicago. So
Dan Rizzi was the intern for the Saints, correct?
Darren Rizzi, yeah.
Yeah, Darren. Yes, he even got a head coaching interview with the Jets. Very well-respected guy. So that would be a great... He's building an all-star coaching staff.
And
sorry, Raiders fans.
Diana Rossini, which I know she's got her people that... She's got her fans, we'll just say that. I don't happen to be one of them. While it makes sense Ben Johnson took the Chicago job, people around the league are very surprised right now.
Well, I mean, people are, because people have been saying Tom Brady spoke to him, and since Tom Brady, aka Jesus Christ 2.0, talked to him, that it should have definitely made him just want to go to Las Vegas, despite the fact that they have no quarterback, no path to a quarterback, and play in one of the most quarterback-dominated divisions in the NFL. Despite all of that, he talked to Tom Brady. He should have gone to the Raiders, and nobody will understand how that happens.
I understand how it happens. It's number 18. And the Bears aren't far off from where people want to write them and think they are. And just watch football your entire life. How much does momentum play in this game mentally? You can't even put a measuring stick on it. That's how important it is. When you have a culture that crumbles because of a Hail Mary pass when you were supposed to win, That's a direct shot at you as the head coach, that you couldn't rally these guys, bring them in, and own the shit yourself. The problem is you kept owning all of the problems, and you were the problem. Now you got a guy in here that's going to be prepared, going to have an understanding of how to protect the quarterback, have answers. I mean, even in I forget which game where he threw the pick, the Seattle game, they have a 8-man front with no hot route answer. Nothing. Your quarterback's dropping back 15 yards, delivering a dime to DJ Moore to get a first down. These things don't need to be that way. They don't need to be a highlight film. Dan Orlovsky couldn't do that play or make it in his lifetime, and thus never turns around and recognizes that extreme talent. It's just hilarious.
Shared from our guy Ryan Cox again. The Lions scored 70 touchdowns this season with Ben Johnson calling plays. The Bears' record for touchdowns in a season is 56 in 1941.
Wow.
If this is big, hold on, and it's DBB, but if it's true, the Bears never did an in-person interview with Ben and still hired him.
They did not.
So that is, like, if that tells you how locked in from this
Phil,
like
we talked
ahead.
about this last night. So
He
Cars
put me into a corner.
Yeah, I'm not. Just put yourself in the position, Cars, if you're the GM and you're interviewing a guy. How many hours do you think that you need with him to know that he is the guy? Because I mean, the
it's
Zoom.
Not that though. You're absolutely right. But
Yeah.
we had been told that they were going to have to interview with 8 different. You remember when he's like listing?
Right.
I'm going to have to listen to the CEO, the head of diversity, the head of HR, Kevin Warren, 3 kids who grew up with the McCaskey families in the 60s, a guy who lives near the stadium. That's a big, like, it was like this long laundry list of people. If they had gone through all of those things, Kevin Warren would have been more in control. Like, that list was, I kind of wrote about it, that list of characters was all because Kevin Warren was trying to impose himself into this. In the end, for better or worse, Ryan Poles won because Kevin Warren's process didn't go through. We didn't do 27 interviews.
This is a great point by Bill.
Great point by our guy, Bill.
You know, and it very well could, because again, we talked about this last night. Back channels are dictating everything. You know, we talked about the NFL free agency, and I know it's not on the same level, but when the league year opens up and Julius Peppers signs a league-altering contract, 38 seconds into the new league year, that was handled back starting at the combine in February. It didn't happen on the morning of the afternoon of the new league year. We know how that goes. So he brings up a great point.
100%.
Rick Smith, based in Chicago, could have put out his feelers and said, hey, my guy wants in.
100%.
And guess what? Who's to say that they didn't talk? Or even 4 more hours via Zoom about everything. Is it illegal? Yeah, it is. That shit happens.
Who's to say they didn't call each other on a FaceTime?
20 you're 24 hours. You could have that one Zoom interview beforehand. Now you're less than 24 hours. They knew, like, the way that there's the whole reason Eddie George interviewed last night, right? Made him Rooney Rule compliant, face to face right away to do this. That's it.
Mike Martz has chimed in, of all people. Cars.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Present for Mike Martz's last call in Chicago.
Who was the reverse to again?
Earl Bennett.
There
in the red zone.
Mike Martz on Ben Johnson. Best I've ever seen. They are very fortunate. They got it right for the first time. And he's talking about Caleb. He's talking about Caleb there. I guess I read that wrong.
But even then,
phone is literally melting.
Nice thing.
Yeah.
Phones are blowing up.
I'm getting text messages and DMs like right now asking me if I saw the news.
We're on live
Yeah.
talking about the news.
Listen, I can be as much of a dick because I can take over for Shane, but folks, usually when you text him, it's like 3 hours after the news. If you're not
Right.
within 30 seconds of the news, Shane and Phil know it. If it's more than 30 seconds out, I hate to break it to you, that's not a thing. So they know. They know. They've already told me 3 times, so they know.
So Ari Marov, my sports update, is confirming. You don't often see this in the NFL coaching cycle. The Bears are hiring Ben Johnson without even having an official in-person interview. Virtual meeting and back channel conversations with those close to Johnson was enough, and they sealed the deal today. Johnson is now set. So say what you want. The McCaskies ponied up financially because that's part of this. Let's be honest.
And they should. It's a coach. There's no cap. There's your billion-dollar business. It's the most important. They failed because they didn't understand that for years. Go ahead, Cars. I'm sorry.
If they didn't, I would have been more upset because, again, you spent $200 million for land that your team president is now trying to ignore to go build a stadium somewhere else. Like, you have all this money invested in land. In the past, let's be honest, and that $200 million would have prevented them from spending anything on a coach, right? Like, hey, we just spent out all this money. Part of the reason they didn't want to fire everybody is because Pace got them to update Hallis, right? And all that.
And let's everybody focus on this, okay? Because this is how this bullshit cycle works, especially with the Bears. What have the Bears been getting killed at, or from what they did? The search was too expansive. The Bears needed to pare this down. They needed to focus on a small core group, hammer away at those now. They should know they can go back channel. They don't need to spend 20 hours with them. And now what is going to be the focus? What is going to be the focus of a Peter Bukowski or Lawrence Holmes or somebody like that wants to put out and perpetuate all of this bullshit all the time? It's going to be Bears, no in-person interview. They didn't do their due diligence. Listen, after you just were saying they should focus on a core group.
You have all the receipts, I hope, because everybody put
receipts.
Ben Johnson number one. I had Flores number one for me. Ben was in my top 10, and I'm ecstatic that they did it because they put a priority on identifying a young talent. And when you look at the numbers, and I know Cars has that, and I don't go by that. I go by the tape of these people. I knew Mike McCarthy could come in here and build a culture and turn it around. I knew Pete Carroll could do it. I knew that. But you also have to understand young, wanting to prove themselves, arrogant guys that identify with this goal in mind to set their mark. Yeah. And that's where we are here with this hire. There's no doubt on the tape.
Guy, the Chicago Bears,
they have plenty of money, Guy.
We're not saying that they can go out and fund a $6 billion stadium by themselves. Can they afford? You go out and you sign one free agent to a deal that's got $110 million guaranteed. That money gets paid. Then
exactly.
Goes into escrow. So they can't afford $15 million or $16 million or whatever it comes in at with Ben Johnson.
But that's why we got Khalil Mack. The Raiders couldn't put the money into escrow. We could. So, like, we do it when we make sense.
Go ahead.
Phil, to your McCarthy point, I was not upset overall at the idea of McCarthy because, to your point, he's going to win games and he's going to get you there. But what he's proven, much like Harbaugh, not Jim, John, much like Tomlin, is that they will get you to the playoffs every year. And unless that roster is severely loaded and a lot of things go right, you're not going to go much further. Yes, that would be an improvement, but this is the time to try to find someone, and we don't know with Ben, and I understand that, but you try to find someone who could be that next level guy. If you take away Jim Harbaugh and Andy Reid, who are your best head coaches in the league? Shanahan's the first time. You got the guy down in the Texans. You got O'Connell. You got LaFleur. You've got all of these guys around the league that are first-time head coaches. The only reason Sean Payton was available is because he mismanaged that cap to all hell, and they had to reboot, and they wanted to blame somebody else. But for the rest of them,
yep.
You've got to get someone new. It may not work, but unless you have an Andy Reid or someone who has been there, you're better off swinging the bat for somebody else.
Listen, you're right. I want someone that wanted to be here. And asking the question, I'm not a fraud. I will never play this game of, I know I'm going to do the work on tape. The work on tape told me, okay, they have plenty of talent in Detroit. How do they handle fronts? How do they block it up? How do they marry up their patterns and play calls to the run? That's the most important thing for me to look at an offensive coordinator or a possible head coach. Are they running the ball or are they in gun all the fucking time? This guy is not in gun. He's under center a lot. He's marrying it up. He has trick plays. I'm a big believer in trick plays. Now, you're going to be recency bias with it and say, it didn't work out. Well, how many points did he put up? 35, whatever, against the Commanders. We've seen what he does. And if you're going to identify your goal, and I'm just saying this, to be the head coach, you have to be in command of all of the roster.
I got
David
a butt
Montgomery checked that box for me.
I got a butt in here. If anybody wants to see Phil have an aneurysm live on air, focus on Phil.
Oh, no.
As I read this, Chris Morgan, 7-year extension. Just kidding. That's totally Dan Pompey, what can the Bears expect from Ben Johnson? Some things that stand out from my time around him and the Lions. He's low on ego, but big on analytics. He thinks creatively and will emphasize the run game and protection.
He lost right there because
Johnson will have a vision for what he wants to do with Caleb. No, I mean, there's a place for analytics.
Big on ego. Your first sentence was wrong. Maybe he did that with you, Dan, sitting at breakfast at Tiffany's.
I was taking my analytics shot at you.
Oh,
there.
There's a place for analytics.
100%.
There is. Like Cars, if I was the coach, he'd be hired and he'd be my guy. Phil, this is the place. When we're in 3rd and 4 and we run trips with the tight end on the back side of it, they're lining up in this. So now I can identify every fucking play that I want to run away from trips versus what they do versus trips. Now I can focus on all my plays that I want to run to the trip side. If that's the coverage that 90% of the time his analytics are showing that's going to help me as a play caller. That's where it works. That's it. Those are the things. And then we're going to, I didn't like the other day with the Ravens going for 2 in the 3rd quarter. I didn't agree with that at all as a coach. I would have kicked, and this isn't rewriting it. I said it at the time. I would have kicked the extra point. My belief is, as a coach, you go for 2 when you have to go for 2. Not
especially against McDermott. Because McDermott, when he gets that lead, goes ultra conservative, and you're gonna get another shot. So completely agreed there. Completely agreed.
And that's where I would use the analytics in formations and personnel usage, offensively and defensively. Okay, this is what they do offensively versus our defense. And this is how now we have to self-scout and go against that. Bubble pass on 3rd and 1? No. That's where we identify, okay, as a coach, let's fucking power it off. Let's power it off. Off tackle. Let's get the first down. Run the big fella, number 22, Derrick Henry. It's pretty fucking good. These are the things, and I respect the hell out of John Harbaugh. think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. They make mistakes.
Can
Ben
it-
Johnson's coming here to identify who he is as the next Bears
Can
coach.
anybody have a guess who tweeted
Chris-
this out?
That Chris Morgan shit pissed me off. I'm just telling.
Oh, I know. That's why I did it. I think I know you a little bit. You guys guess who wrote this tweet? I think Ben Johnson is a really smart offensive coach, but I also know that no one wins the offseason like the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams was supposed to be it's different this time too. So, gave him 17 games. Anybody have any guesses?
I'm
You
going
look
to
up
say
north,
Peter Bukowski.
and you would be correct, sir.
You know, it's funny. It's like it's
Pin
like
it up.
it's like, he's not getting any. Packers fans hate him. Packers players hate him. So he's always like, look, guys, look at me. I'm making fun of the Bears. Will anyone like me now? Will
Right.
somebody please like me now?
Oh, very good. Very good
Just kills me.
recap. That's all he is.
Jaquan Brisker has chimed in. This is the turning point. New times. Let's get it.
Oh my God. Jaquan Brisker. Is he
And-
back next year? That's what I hope.
Yes,
And-
they're going
and-
to use him. They're going to use him up, Phil. It's the
He's got
NFL.
one more year left. on
Sounds
his deal.
horrible. Sounds horrible to say, but they're going to use him up.
And,
I will go out on a limb and say Chris Morgan will not be the Bears O-line coach.
Well, so I say stop asking about the coach simply because you got to watch what happens in Detroit. If so with Ben gone, who is Dan Campbell going to promote? If it's not Fraley, he's probably going to be offensive line coach and offensive coordinator because he won't call plays. And the only way to get him here would be to offer him a promotion. You can't just keep him at offensive line
would
coach
put
or
him,
else
yeah.
Detroit,
And-
we'll block it.
Shane had said that during
listen,
this December when we were saying if Hank Fraley look at him, I'd be like, okay,
We're
I'm
sitting.
good with him.
We're sitting down, and we're going to play a little poker here.
Okay.
You got to think ahead, and this is where the analytics come into play, and this is what you guys love Cars Key so much for. This is what we do on Thursday nights. Sometimes you got to play 4D chess, right? Got to think ahead a little bit. You got to throw some things out there. The Bears in this expansive search. What happens if Aaron Glenn gets hired at 11 a.m. today ahead of Ben Johnson? He's going to start poaching from the staff before Ben does.
And
Yeah.
everybody else is massively delayed, right? Jets have to figure out the front
And
office.
people are going to be elevated after he does that. And it may not be, you may have a guy that you elevated to offensive coordinator after Aaron Glenn poached a guy that you could have been interested in. And now it's a lateral move and you can't take him. So to me, this is a little bit of 4D chess involved here with Ryan Poles and with Ben Johnson being on the same page. Like, yeah, there's some guys on this staff that I want. And that goes for other places.
Well, yeah,
also-
it goes. I think your point is right. Detroit gets first dibs, but now he has first pick of every coach
Yeah.
across the league,
Yeah.
every assistant. New York is going to be delayed because they still have to hire the GM, and it looks like
Yep.
they want to hire GM first. New Orleans is really just starting. The Jaguars, it doesn't feel like have started an interview process at all. The Raiders still have to hire a GM and then a coach. So getting this done now really gets
And
Fraley comes with a BJ. That's a nice way of saying that.
I wish. I want to address this guy real quick here. Matt Nagy rehire or Matt Nagy. I saw somebody else 2.0. What Matt Nagy was never an offensive
not even close.
coordinator that called plays consistently.
He called him for 6 games. 6.
His hands were crutched by the head coach even in those 6 games. And the worst game they ever had was under Matt Nagy in that playoff game. They lost, putting them out of the playoffs and bridging him to Chicago.
And
what Matt Nagy is is opposite of what Ben is. Ben is confident in Ben. Matt
And-
Nagy was not confident. Matt Nagy pretended to be.
And let's not forget, Cars brought this up. This shows the football power structure in Chicago is Ryan Poles having that, and you can bet your ass that Ryan Poles has a contract extension that is going to tie him to Ben Johnson.
You think
He
so?
won the power. He won the power struggle.
Yep.
Yeah, because again, the interview process and how many people, that was Kevin trying, adding names and continuing things. Someone had tweeted and it was perfect. It's like how you choose a vendor for your wedding. You interview 20 people and figure out who's going to give you the best value. That's what Kevin Warren was doing. So Ryan doesn't sound like was interested in most any of these people. So yeah, he won a power struggle. He's getting an extension. It's maybe it's 1 or 2 years to start, but most likely it's longer than that.
Well, let me ask you both this, because I had a curiosity and I thought can't remember who said it, so I'm big on giving credit, but I just can't remember. But there is some value to a coach coming in here that might not believe in him as the GM. So him having 1 year to see who he is with you, see if that relationship works like they're talking about now. Now we're in the honeymoon stage. I think it's a good thing to wait on it and not marry it up, to see who he, because looking at some of his drafts, looking at how he built this team, and looking at how he sees offensive linemen has concerned me about Ryan Poles. So can we say that we wait and see how this measures up?
Well, now you have a guy that has an elite offensive line and knows how absolutely critical it is.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, the Bears
he might negotiate a voice in the draft. I hope that's in there.
Well, I mean, I think Ryan Poles understands that this is your last ride, homie. This is it.
Yeah, but this guy, listen, I'm just saying, I don't know if it's necessary.
Let's just put it this way. I know there's people, and I've seen people in the chat, and then
Go ahead.
nobody loves Ashton Jenny more than I am. You can't draft a running back top 10 in this draft for the Bears. You can't.
If you'd like a torn ACL, over the last 30 years, there's only been one running back drafted in the top 10 that has made it to the Super Bowl with the team that has drafted him. And that is end of his career, Todd Gurley, right? Knees torched at that point. He is the only one. We could talk how great Saquon is, second pick overall, but he's on his second franchise. Like it's a mistake to do. If you have a great offensive line, but it's injuries that have decimated you, or something along the lines, sure. But why, you can't, you're going to tear his ACLs and use up all that mileage on him before you're good.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. The lines are, but he has not, and Bullets put it in there, he skipped out on these lines in regards to the draft. He drafted Darnell Wright, and Darnell Wright is your best lineman. Right? Tevin's gone based on his verbiage and everything he's saying, and he's been nothing but injured. So now some of these guys, like I say, Ryan Bates has some talent there. Braxton Jones, Shea Snorling, Braxton cannot play inside. He gets bullied the fuck out of him outside. You think he's going to be able to play better with his hand in the dirt, having to take on 345-pound defensive tackles? Are you dumb? Like, tell me you don't know football without saying it. He is a tackle only. Where he is in his career right now is swing tackle. He has not shown the ability to stay healthy. I would say he's an average tackle. That's fair to say with him. Average to below. And you're more comfortable with him as a swing. Darnell is a starting offense. He was playing injured. I was told by one of the players he shouldn't even be out there at some points. He's playing through pain in the AC joint and another injury. In a losing season, decided to do this. So stop with the Darnell Wright stuff. Where he has missed, Ryan Poles has. You can't go back and draft Jalen Carter. This is also recency scouting. Jalen Carter gets a free run at the fucking quarterback. Every defensive tackle known to man should finish that. Right? Jalen Carter is a talent. He could never function in the utter chaos of the Chicago Bears under Cornball Eberflus. It was a romper room showcase of a guy that wasn't respected and wanted to be friends with everybody. There was inner fighting, people throwing shit at one another, fights, disagreements, spit, swearing. It was utter chaos. You think Jalen Carter's going to be able to? You thought Jalen Johnson spoke out. Imagine Jalen Carter. So stop. You went the offensive line route. You needed to go there. You just needed more. And they haven't done it. They didn't do it in free agency either. I agree with Shane. Ben Johnson better be in the right there. Okay, let's look at these tackles. Let's look at Campbell. Let's look at the kid from Minnesota. We're going to be breaking those guys down on Draft Mob here on TTNL. If you're not a patron,
Ivan's got a bunch of it cut already.
we already have it cut. We're going to be starting up. Once we got the head coach, we're going to kick off Draft Mob and get you ready for the NFL draft like nobody else out there. Breaking down the tape for truth. Shout out to my boy Chris Harold for supplying and being such an amazing friend and patron, supporting the Tape Never Lies Network. He's an Eagles fan, Cars.
Nobody's perfect.
So just like Shane, I gotcha.
Yes.
I got you.
Yes.
But he's been such a fan of our show and the network and what we do.
I'm in a bit of a pickle this next weekend, Cars.
No, you got to cheer for the Eagles.
Well, my one brother-in-law is an Eagles fan, and my other brother-in-law is a Buffalo Bills fan. So
I'm cheering.
I will get to go to their. Maybe I'll get to go to their Super Bowl party and watch them kick the shit out of each other.
What you cheer for is
brother-in-laws.
Buffalo and Eagles, and then Buffalo to win finally.
Yeah, that would be. I wouldn't mind seeing
They
Buffalo win it.
imagine going 4 times back to back and losing. Those people deserve something, man.
You have to start to worry just a little bit if Buffalo can't get over this hump this year, like that.
Hey,
It really starts to get in your head, between Lamar not being able to do it, between Jalen Hurts not being able to do it. Like, if the only one who's done it is Burrow, who's gone and beaten KC. Everybody else continues to choke away and choke away and choke away.
It's sussy calls, as the young folks would say.
I have no idea what that means. I'm going to find out what sussy means. I'm just kidding.
No, Draft Mob is right on the menu, straight out. We're talking in the next week or two. We'll be kicking off the first show of Draft Mob, breaking down and starting with
It's definitely not going to be next week.
Definitely not next week.
I'm not even sure yet. By February,
What month is it?
February. Yeah.
Yeah, by February.
Yeah, we got a
What
We got a
month?
lot of shit to do.
Yeah. I was taking a nap and Shane's calling me. Are you ready to go live? I go, for what? We got a coach. I go, who?
What?
Let's go.
I even heard Steph in the background. Who'd we
Who'd you
get?
get?
Just like Devin on draft day.
Yeah.
He's jumping up and down and screaming after they, everybody's celebrating. He's like, who'd we get?
Who'd we get? Listen, if you're not a patron, I suggest you do yourself a favor. All of these guys know in 2 weeks, we will be kicking off our TTNL draft coverage, breaking down the offensive tackles in the draft. We'll start there. We obviously go as if we're the Chicago Bears attacking the front office, attacking the draft and needs and how we look at these offensive linemen. And we can go, I mean, last year we went every quarterback deep, and it was not even close. And we'll be doing that. Running backs, tight ends. We need tight ends. You're going to see a lot of 2-3 tight end usage here with Ben Johnson in the right way, not in the Waldron way. You're also going to obviously need another running back. I don't think Rashawn Johnson is where they thought the pillar was going to stand, Shane. But it's going to be interesting how they use Swift, how he uses Swift, the offensive line. You need a center. You need another guard. Like I said, I don't know where Ryan Bates is in regards to his health and how they coach them.
And don't forget Stromberg too. That's you don't count on him as a starter, absolutely, but it's going to be interesting to watch where they see him.
Also, I want to see what they do with the rookie Amagaji. Again, a lot of people take their shots. This guy was injured all throughout the summer, didn't even play, and then all of a sudden he's thrust in, and you have the utter chaos, the same shit Caleb was dealing with, and you have one of the worst offensive line coaches that I've ever witnessed here with the Chicago Bears. It's that bad. I don't even understand some of these guys. Shane sent me a great clip with Kyle Long talking about, this is pre-hire, and Kyle was talking about Ben Johnson being his guy that he felt he needed. And then he would talk to George McCaskey and sit them down and tell them what is necessary, because they've never been able to do it. The girl from ESPN who did this Trace Armstrong stuff. I don't know if you saw that video, Shane.
Which
from
one?
WGN.
No.
Kaylin, is that her name?
Oh, Kaylin Kaler. Yeah. Yep.
WGN had her on, and she was talking about her article, and there was a lot of talk about Ted Phillips being an accountant and leaning behind closed doors heavily on Trace Armstrong, personnel decisions and obviously coaching decisions, offensive coordinators, even personnel decisions with Trace. So where this team was then to where it should be and where we believe it's going now with Ben Johnson is night and day. And it's all because you have the quarterback. You really do.
Is it, the one part I'd like to laugh about is everyone's like, oh, he's not going to come here because he wants a Jared Goff type. He doesn't want a Caleb Williams type. And it's, he's worked with one quarterback that was better, right? They got more out of Jared Goff than even LA has for as long as they have. But clearly, when you get the chance to go be like, yeah, I'd rather have some talent, like a lot more talent. It really shows how quickly that move comes together.
And I think the first thing I'm going to do is attack the Detroit Lions offensive tape to give our patrons a showcase of what you're going to be getting with a guy that's identifying other teams' weaknesses, but also at the same time, the best ones recognize what they do well. And you'll see a pattern that I want you to showcase, because when I was looking at Ben, the coach, there's a lot of gray with a lot of people. Well, you got the best offensive line in football, and that's debatable, but it's up there, right? And you got all these weapons, right? But the way he marries his run game and pass game up it's what I honestly have dreamed about the Chicago Bears being able to do, getting in that 12 personnel and attacking that outside zone, but blocking that backside and then releasing for safety, and then being able to have those downfield throws. And Caleb, of all people, can do it. It doesn't have to always be boots, straight drop, under center, Get his feet set. I mean, when he does it, it's outstanding. So now
So-
you're marrying that up. It's a big get for the Bears.
A little update from who you were just talking about, Kaylin Kaler.
Yeah.
She tweeted out, "One thing I know is Ben Johnson is that he is intense. Lions offensive lineman Dan Skipper told me that he is sure to maintain a 5-yard bubble around Johnson at all times during games because you're bound to get dog cuss like nothing you've ever seen before. He's one of the most intense people you'll ever meet, and he doesn't put off like that. But he's incredibly intense and like
There you go. That's all I
don't
need.
get in his way."
David Montgomery married that up because I asked him straight out, like, he knows who I am. You're gonna love him. It's what you are looking for. He's intense personified. He's arrogantly confident. He's gonna get in everyone's at. You don't run your route. For example, if you were a patron, you would know. We're running a levels concept action boot game. The tight end can't be at 24 yards breaking. There's no play known to man unless he's just running off of safety that a tight end who's the second read is going at 24, but somehow that's happening. And it's not even plant stick or
Right.
nod stick. It's fucking rounded. That'll never happen.
Diana
Cole
Rossini,
Kmet's about to get a luxury class on running a whole stem pattern to what he does as a tight end to make himself available.
Diana Rossini just tweets out, the Chicago Bear Ben Johnson took the job in Chicago because of one reason: Caleb Williams. It's that simple. End of tweet.
Who said that?
Diana Rossini.
I thought we said that.
Oh yeah,
Hi, Diana.
we've been saying
Thanks
it,
for
but yeah,
tuning in.
it's
Your
always nice when
relationship with
somebody else says it.
Diana's back and forth, Shane. She's single?
I don't know. I'll hit her up. No, she's married.
Oh my God. So if you're just tuning in, the Chicago Bears have their new coach. And under Ben Johnson, the Lions have been the top scoring offense, right? And I'll just say this. The Bears have not been the top scoring offense.
They have ranked fifth, and first over the last 3 years. They have ranked fourth, third, and second in yards on offense the last 3 years.
When you get a quarterback that Diana Rossini, Shane Marsaw, Caleb Cars. I'm giving Caleb Cars.
I know when I look at myself in the mirror, I go Caleb Williams, absolutely. Like once you
Love
see
your-
through my
I love your
transparency.
haircut, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Cars, myself, it's Caleb Williams. And I'm telling you, the reality of marrying up what Caleb can do in script and off of it is the reason why Ben Johnson's here. It was joked about on the St. Brown Brothers pod. They all knew it was probably going to be Ben. If you just go watch it again, you could just see. And everybody knows, including Amon, how good Ben Johnson is at holding people accountable. And Shane made a great point to me this year when I had some concerns. This is before I talked to those Lion players. He said, do you think if you were the head coach, and I'm paraphrasing you, that you would allow someone on your staff that wasn't like you in the same way? And I'm like, no, exactly. He's working for fucking Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell needs the same
He's
message.
a no nonsense guy. He's not going to.
No
There's
nonsense.
a guy not pulling his weight. He's going to be a former.
My definition of maniacal was answered by that, and then David Montgomery checking the box for me. This coaching staff that we had in Chicago, offensively and defensively, was pathetic. There's no do it again. If you don't do it right, you keep doing it until it is right. I always tell the story. You know, as a coach, you have a responsibility to not make them like you. It's to ultimately make them the best they can be, for them to turn around and say, I don't like this guy. I love this guy because he made me go that extra mile. Fatigue makes cowards of us all. Fatigue makes cowards of us all. The Chicago Bears were out of shape. They lacked effort. And the funny thing is that rookie quarterback, I don't give a shit who you think you are, what analytics, and you watch Dan Orlovsky and the dumbasses every day. You will never be able to sit with me watching tape and not show me this kind of fucking competitive toughness from that position, that kind of check mark in those boxes that Caleb Williams checked. He should be applauded for what he did this year. Applauded. The fact that Schrager and the company of all these people with awards or whatever they're giving and doing have piled on, it's pathetic. But I digress to the tape. A lot of people will try to paint this, like Shane said, in the coming days. It'll turn from positive to, is this the next Matt Nagy? That's what they'll do.
It's already there. And look, we get it. This team has given you a lot of reason to be negative constantly. I mean, I told Phil, I told Shane this. I'm like, you know it too. It's so hard to come talk about this team when all they do is rip your heart out. And the second that it gets to the point where it's just like, I can't deal with this anymore. You know, I can't be happy. I can't look at the optimistic side of a new hire or a new player or a new pick. I'm always just nitpicking for myself. Like, I got to put myself in timeout at that point. And I'm not there. Ben is a massive win. He was nobody has been the candidate and with the history that Ben Johnson is. And so this is a big win for us. And I'm hoping that it works out.
And that's really all you could do. I mean, everything plays a part in it. I can assure you this isn't Matt Nagy. Like, this is one thing I take a lot of pride in, is I watch a lot of tape and I want to look at the Bears offensive line. Let's go look at the Chiefs offensive line and how they're coached. Let's go look at the Commanders offensive line. And then let's look at the Bears offensive line. And it's so far away from where those guys are. And I can win with average talent if I'm holding them to a standard. This is what we do on verse this. This is what we do versus this. This
Phil,
is our steps.
This is pretty.
He will make it.
This is pretty big. And this is from the Bears blog, who's been locked in once again. Last tidbit for the day, then I'm done. Ben Johnson is more than comfortable with Ryan Poles and his personnel man, but wanted assurances from ownership, George McCaskey, that he would have zero meddling from Kevin Warren and from George himself. He was given those assurances. Deal done.
Wow.
Doesn't that tell you, though, that, again, when he said, or when it was reported that people are going to have to speak about their past failures and why they think that they did so or they failed, it's awfully telling that George was in that list as well as Kevin Warren, that it's
as
that
he should be.
known. But I mean, we've all kind of assumed for that to come out in a report, it is much more known and widespread than I think most fans will realize.
The common fan doesn't. You're 100% right. And listen, that's huge. If he is on point with that, that just says, and that was released early. I forget who had said this, that he was going, and we knew that it was directly. Maybe you could pull that old tweet up, Shane. when it was first that he was going in, he's looking for a team that is going to, and it's basically what he's saying. You follow what I'm saying? And that was way back when the hiring prior to the hiring circuit and interview circuit began. This is what he's looking for. That message was clearly sent out there. No meddling. Why do I call him the meddler? Because that's what he did. He can't help himself. No, I'm going to fucking swear. I'm going to say, I'm going to be who I am. My culture is that. We can't have an owner coming in here. Oh, we don't do that. Let's all take turns with stay the hell away. Probably heard a lot from a lot of other people who have experienced and probably asked, hey, you used to coach with the Bears, right? What was ownership like? And he's doing his own due diligence, his own homework. Oh, man, those McCaskies, George, he plays this nice guy riding a scooter, but he's always, no, I can't. So I'm going to set my boundaries right now. And it's funny, as Ryan Cox is reading my mind, I went on a whole thing about George. Once Nagy was fired, about the meddler. Let's start chanting, sell the team, because he's the problem. Now they got the goods, got a great young coach. He's putting together an all-star staff. We hope. So far, we will see. Dennis Allen is a great start. We know what he has in the quarterback, and we'll be breaking it all down. I'm already getting a text. Someone's sending me, Chris Harold is sending me some Lions all 22 coaches tape tonight, right as we speak. So I'll start cutting that up. Ivan's cutting up the draft prospects. I think he's got 4 tackles already cut up. So we'll be prepared on that end. And if you're not a patron, do yourself a favor, thetapeneverlies.com. Become a patron today. We have some announcements. We're going to have a special patrons town hall with me and Shane in the next coming days or week.
Yep. It'll be sooner rather than later.
There you
say that.
Sooner rather than later.
Let's get out of here.
Yep. I got to.
Yeah.
A lot of people preparing. I'm cheering for Notre Dame tonight, Shane.
Yeah, I'm not.
You're gonna root for Ohio.
No, I'm just gonna sit back and sniffle and snort and cough and watch some football and not have.
So I guess I'm just gonna say this. I hope Georgia continues to dominate your football team with an attitude like that. None of us should be forced to deal with an Ohio State victory.
Hey, there you go.
I agree with you 100%. I can't. Ryan Day is like a Green Bay Packer fan to me. I can never cheer for that guy.
He has the Just for Men penciled in, brushed in.
He does.
Lined up beard. And it's like when Carlos Boozer was here and he used to use the nail polish for the hairline. Like that's what it looks like to me. And I just can't do it.
Oh my God. Just for Men. Totally. Like, let it go, bro. Let it go.
Done.
Fuck you, Bullets.
It's becoming the greatest job. But yes, Big Steve Edwards, the Bear Down with Big Steve, former Chicago Bears offensive lineman on TTNL will be live tonight, breaking down, obviously, the big news here, Steve.
The news of the day.
News of the day. The Bears have got their man.
What was it like in the Atoshan house when I called you?
Went to bed, Cars, praying. He doesn't pray, so it was so cute. I pray that we get Ben Johnson to be our head coach. I'm like, that's who I want for Caleb and the Bear. And he got his wish.
Wednesday. I was not thinking.
Yeah.
bro.
Today is insane.
I thought it was going to be next week. I'm like, they're going to bring him in for second
4D
interview.
chess, ladies and gentlemen. 4D chess.
Shane was right. Oh no. Well,
Clip it,
Shane did
clip it,
say
clip
Wednesday
it.
too.
I need that clipped.
Listen,
Shane.
I give credit. I give credit to you. You just don't listen.
No, never.
Hey,
I don't.
yes.
We got a head
I
coach.
know. We got a head coach.
We'll see you guys soon. Thanks for tuning
Later,
in.
everybody.
Ben
Wait,
Johnson.
we didn't get to all the fucking super
Oh,
chats.
shit.
Let me
All right, I
finish
gotta
with
bounce
these.
because I gotta go.
You
talk
gotta
to
go.
home repair
Let's
guy.
finish with
Thank
these.
you.
See you, man.
Love you, bro. We got a
Love you
coach.
too, man.
And
Yeah, we covered this. Ron D'Ambrosio, Warren get credit or polls. It's poll. This is polls show. I think they were talking about process. Ryan Poles has been connected to Ben Johnson, via back channels and via the rumor mill for a long time. And I think that it just shows that the football portion of it is that Ryan Poles has the power, and as the GM, that's the way that it should be.
I agree with Shane here. I thought Cars did a great job of putting that into perspective about Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles. So check that back out.
Thank you,
guy,
Richard.
Jack will get these.
Got to go back to work. Love you, TTNL and crew. Let's fucking go. Bear down.
Thank you, Richard, for $5.
Cygnus $4.99. Love this hire. Don't know anything about Allen. Could you give us some info regarding his scheme? We're gonna have a little bit more on that. We didn't dive into Dennis Allen. Nothing is official yet, but we'll have some things for you guys.
Once it's 100% official, we're gonna go to the tape on that and show you.
Absolutely.
That.
Ray Rojas the third, $5. As far as GM is concerned, do you think Poles gets extended? I think he is. If not, do you think Ian is staying here so he can take over? TTNL is the best. Yeah, I mean it's not. It sounds like the assistant GM from Tampa is going to be heading west, maybe to Vegas, and then does that clear the pathway for Liam Cohen to be the next head coach in Vegas? We'll see. And with that, Mike McCarthy in New Orleans, my guess is Aaron Glenn ends up in New York.
I like that hire for the Jets.
And then where does Jacksonville go? They've been connected to Liam Cohen also. So we'll see. But get who you're getting. We got our guy, and that's
it. Brian Flores maybe in Jacksonville. Tony Adams,
$10. The big three together plus Ivan on the show. Nobody can come close to you guys. TTNL #1 show.
Tony, thank you so much, buddy.
Nice to get some love like that.
Get some love. Then new era.
Doug Connell, $4.99. Do you think the sell the team chant got George to quit with his crap?
I believe
it hurts.
I think it did. I think the board got the and I could say this now. The board got the message. They do watch TTNL. That's 100% for sure.
Yep.
And hopefully it continues. So keep it here locked in. Big Steve Edwards, the Bear Down with Big Steve tonight. We'll be going live on Patreon once Dennis Allen is official. We'll see. And we'll get into more. Yeah. We got Draft Mob coming up at the end of the month here. So get yourself a patron. We're going to have a town hall, a patron town hall coming up soon as well.
Yeah, it's Draft Mob is not going to be the end of this month. It'll be into February. But yeah, we're
correct.
Yeah, we got some work to do there, but we'll announce it. Make sure everybody knows our patrons. And Ben Johnson, head coach, Chicago Bears. Time to go to work. The off season is here. See you guys soon.